invited me to some research work that you're doing with Leeds Beckett University and Lisa Stephenson, where we went into a school, a primary school in Bradford, and looked at the power of creativity to unlock the curriculum so that children at whatever stage they're at can access the learning and feel that they've got something to take from it and to offer to it in a way that is, I mean, it's just completely embedded in creativity. I was sat there, I couldn't keep still, really, could I? It's so exciting.
It is exciting. It's something
exciting that I've been passionate about through my own drama teaching career and in all the businesses, community work, everything that I've done. And so you're involved with that as part of your PhD because you brought your the food into the work that you've been doing in primary schools. Why is this so important? Why is it so important to you that creativity is used to empower people, whatever age they are?
So the roots of that are really selfish. The roots of the answer to that are really, really selfish. But please bear with me.
That's fine. I'm thinking,
please bear with me.
It won't be selfish. It's going to be your why. It's going to be why you do it.
So when I was younger, as a child, I had one of those brothers who was just amazing at everything.
Yeah.
He was so academic. He was the child that was reading by the time he was 2, and he was free reading by the time he was 3.5. And sports, he was just such a great sportsman. He was so good at all the sports, and there was little me, like little me behind him, like, what has it got glitter on it? I don't care then. And then that kind of, it followed me throughout life. And what happened when I kind of hit 6 or 7 and I was in in first school, teachers would say, "You're not like your brother, are you?" And I had on a few occasions, ask him will be able to tell you. Okay, that's my older brother. Ask him, he'll be able to tell you. And I would go home to my mum and I would be like, I can't do it. And round about that time, I didn't stop singing. I didn't stop dancing. I used to make all the family come and see me in my shows in the living room on the coffee table. And I would charge them 2p for coming to watch me.
Bargain.
On my coffee table performance. We had this red towel that I would put over the coffee table, and I would stand on the coffee table and do shows for everyone. And people would say, like my mum would say, my dad would say, when I would get upset about not being as intelligent, "You've got so many other talents. You can sing, you can dance, you can act." And almost from being 7 or 8, it was embedded that I was not to worry about not being academic, because I could sing, I could dance, I could act, and I was going to make my career on the stage. That's how I was going to make my money. And so when I couldn't do something, what became the reaction was, "Oh, well, I'm going to be a performer. So, when am I going to need this? Oh, I'm going to be a performer. So if I don't understand it, it's one of those things, because I'm just not meant to, because I'm meant to be on a stage." And although
that's interestingly like a kind of way of building up resilience, isn't it?
And it absolutely did. But what I then found when I hit my mid-20s and the people around me were progressing in their career and they were doing really interesting stuff, and I was still singing and dancing on a stage, which I thoroughly enjoyed, completely enjoyed, but there was something lacking. There was something missing for me. But I genuinely believed that because I wasn't academic, I wasn't capable of doing anything else, and that was never the intention of it. that was said to me to empower me, so I didn't feel bad about not being able to do these things, not about not being able to do the maths or not being able to do the science. It was a way of making me feel okay with that, because I had other skills, and I did have other skills, but it limited me. It limited me, and maybe it didn't limit me. I then limited myself because of that, because of those things that were said to me. And so I got to my 20s and my friends' careers were flying and they were doing these amazing things. And I was like, I'm just not capable of any of that, because I'm a performer. That's what I do. There's nowhere else for me to go. If somebody in those early stages of school had taught me creatively, had taught me math through story, had taught me science through story, had taught me history, geography through story,
I'm getting goosebumps.
I wouldn't have got to my mid-20s and gone, oh my God, I'm so stupid, there's nothing I can do.
Yeah.
You know, and obviously, don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's been a totally bad thing, because I'm, you know, I came through the other side of it and I love what I do. I love my research. I love my work. I love the people that I've met when I'm working. But I have been really privileged in the sense that I've always had people around me going, yeah, you can do it. Of course you can do it. If that's what you want to do, you go do it. Not everybody has that.
Yeah.
And I think about the young people that we're working with on that project. And a lot of those young people don't have that support network. They don't have people at home going, you've got this. You've got this. So when they struggle with something at school, that's it. They struggle with it.
Yeah.
Some of them will be able to go home and get help with it, but that doesn't always transcend into adult life. And it can be anything. It can be, you know, loss. It can be people moving away from their families, whatever it is, having that support network to G you on and encourage you. Not everybody has it. And it's a real shame.
Yeah.
It is a real shame. But I genuinely believe that with this project that we're doing, if people can teach the curriculum differently and the information that it needs to be given to students about how and why volcanoes form, about the ancient Greeks and what they did and how they lived. If somebody can do that through story, and that information falls on the child who couldn't get it when they were sat still watching a teacher just explain it to them, then that can only be a positive thing, because it means that when they come to looking at history for GCSE, or they come to look at geography or science, they will be able to look at the curriculum creatively.
Yeah,
and
it's
they will
a
be able
living
to
thing, isn't it? It's not a static whiteboard, chalkboard when we were kids.
Absolutely.
Whiteboard, there it is on the whiteboard. Read that.
Yes.
About it.
Yes, which is, it increases their understanding. It increases the chance of them getting higher grades, which increases the options they have when it comes to picking further education, higher education, careers. And in that, it gives them aspiration, because they're not limiting themselves. They're not going to do what I did, which is, oh, well, I can't do that. I'm going to sing and dance. They're not going to limit themselves, because they're going to be able to go, oh, I remember doing that with the story, and we went this and we did that, and oh, that's what it means. It makes sense there. Oh no, I do understand that. And I totally understand that.
The different ways of doing things, the different ways of looking at things, the different perspectives. One of the things that really stood out to me, the way in which, because you know, for me, I'm all about creativity in every sphere of life. It's not just for those of us that love performing or creating artwork or singing, dancing, whatever. Creativity permeates every single aspect of life.
Yeah, it does.
And one of the things that demonstrated that massively at the training day with the teachers was a story that you told about a little boy and the something that he created. And I just want to give a little bit of context to this. These young people that you're working with are in year 3 and 4.
Yes.
Yeah, who have been, you know, every young person has been impacted by the pandemic, but these young people particularly have never really experienced until this year, and even then it's a little bit dubious, but I've never really experienced a full year in school without some sort of disruption going on because of the pandemic. On top of all the other things that they would have had to deal with, whether or not they were dealing with a pandemic as well. So things like their ability to interact with each other, their resilience, again, let's talk about that, their ability to express themselves and to understand their emotions. A big chunk of that hasn't happened because of what they've experienced in their very short lives. But you told a story about this young man when you were doing a project on, I believe it was on Europe, which just demonstrated how transformational this work is. Go for it.
I'm gonna have to check, is that the story about the chef?
Yeah.
So there is a young boy that we teach. I think English is maybe his fourth language. He's not been in England all his life. He came from Portugal. He came at the start of the pandemic, so he got to England and then was locked in a house. So he didn't experience school like everyone else because of the pandemic, and so in some ways has struggled. He's, it's a language thing, although his language skills have really come on since school started in September. But it, a language thing and an understanding, reading those social cues that culturally are different in England to what they are in Portugal. All of that, all impacts this wonderful young man. We had been talking about the different kinds of food eaten across the Mediterranean, and food is my thing. I am a feeder, so I took food in. I went to Morrison's, bought lots of salad and different things from Mediterranean countries, and I made for them a Greek salad, or a traditional Greek salad. And then there were all these ingredients on the table from different areas of the Mediterranean, and they got to design their own Mediterranean salad. They wrote down the ingredients, they had to write where they were getting their food from, and then they told each other what they were making. This young man stood up with his story, and he came over to myself and the class teacher, and he was talking about the different ingredients that he was going to use in his Mediterranean salad. And the language that he was using he used words like fresh and fruity, delicious and wonderful, which is all really exciting. But he's a bright boy and has caught onto English very well, but it wasn't just the language that he was using, it was the way he was using the language. He really, really understood every single thing that he said. He knew it and he felt passionately about it, and he was articulating that. Whereas before that class, most of his communication had been robotic is too harsh of a word, but almost robotic, through fear of getting the wrong word, through fear of not understanding the social cues, whether we could articulate that or not. But in this one moment, there was just a complete loss of inhibition. And he was talking about all the brilliant ingredients he would use and the freshness of the taste. And he sounded like Gordon Ramsay. Like describing one of his own meals. It was just a really great moment. And because of his use of language and because of the excitement that he was telling this with and the understanding he had, the other children around all just kind of stopped and started looking at him, and they were really excited about it as well. And you could see they were almost salivating just at the way he was describing the food that he was making. It was just a really great moment for him, because he was being a chef, he was being creative, and he was understanding where these fruits and these veggies, were coming from. And it was just a really great moment. One of those moments where you see the benefits of the work that we're doing, that telling the curriculum through story, being creative with the curriculum, and changing it up so they're not sat at a desk, and seeing the benefits of it and the excitement that the young people get from being able to do something on their own, from being independent, as silly and as small as it may sound, to be able to create your own recipe. That's what they did, and they talked it through.
And then that translates into, this is where the transformation comes in, isn't it? It translates into the fact that if he'd have been studying it in the traditional way, he would have had to write about it. But what has this experience done to his ability to write about it? He's not sat there going, it's like, and then I did this, and then I did, which develops his written language skills. It develops his spoken language skills, the confidence and courage that's been
absolutely. And there's, like I say, they got to write down what they were making, and there was a moment in it where he was telling us what he was doing, and then he said, when he was showing us what he'd written and what he'd drawn, because he drew his salad, what his salad was going to look like, there was a moment where he went, and he wrote something on it. And like you say, it's that he'd seen it, he'd said it, and he'd gone, wait a minute, I've said it out loud, I must write that down. And so he wrote it down.
And that experience, that ability to write and write confidently, because you spoke about how he didn't have that confidence and he wasn't sure about social cues, etc. So that can a contracting experience rather than an expansive experience, which this creativity through the food, through the education gave him, and also your knowledge and experience of like I get that this kid feels othered, but we're going to use food and creativity as a vehicle for helping all of these kids to come together, to collaborate, and to make something that's so positive that it doesn't just affect what they're doing in school. It also has ripple effects going out into his family and his community.
Absolutely.
Because again, Lisa spoke about how she'd been asked to go to families as part of this project and had spoken to them about the impact that the work was having. Are you able to just kind of explain the impact that this project is having on the wider community?